Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving.
So we're going to start casual, have a casual start to our service today. We're glad you're here. Beautiful Sunday is. August is winding down. And when I noticed a breeze sweeping across the back of the church, through the back door, ramp door, all the way across and out the front door. It was where it's drafting. Flower on the altar this morning is a bouquet I found last night walking along the river. So again, this is kind of the name, identify the flower. I think I've come up with white snake root. And during coffee hour, if you want to Google it on your phone, see what you come up with, I'd be curious to see what we have. I had never noticed it before until it's growing in the river, along the river, and then along the road that's leading to it. So it makes it delightful. This morning for our service. Our prelude this morning is called Driftwood. And on the altar, I brought in a piece of driftwood. And when I was a child, our summer vacation we would spend at Moosehead Lake. We'd rent a cottage for a week. And my mother's passion was to look for driftwood during the week along the shore of the lake. I don't remember her ever buying any souvenirs in town, in Greenville, at the souvenir shops. But I remember her spending the afternoons walking along the edge of the lake in Sandy Bay, which is on the east side of the lake leading to Greenville. And I remember driving home in our family station wagon each summer was full of driftwood in the back of our car. So this is on today's altar. And the piece is by the Menahan Street Band out of Brooklyn, New York. And as you listen to this prelude piece, imagine yourself walking on early morning in the summer, looking for treasures along the shore. For our moment of sentiment silence, we pause, taking a break from our busy lives on this summer day. We rest in this present moment. We are awake. We are alert. We are alive. In tumultuous times such as this, all we can do is align with the light. We light this chalice as a symbolic act and cosmic indicator of intent. May the light infuse all things. So for this morning, for opening words, I brought in my Gary Snyder collection of books, poetry, and essays on the altar. So during coffee hour, feel free to peruse a few of these and to read a few poems. Currently, his movie, the documentary about his life, is being screened. I sent out a note earlier this week to watch the film. So I was inspired to go back to my notebooks, see what I could find, and I found this. In one of my notebooks I had scribbled years ago. This comes from an essay found in Practice of the Wild, published in 1990. And it's from the essay, The Etiquette of Freedom. The lessons we learn from the wild become the etiquette of freedom. We can enjoy our humanity with its flashy brains and sexual buzz, its social cravings, its stubborn tantrums, and take ourselves as no more and no less than another being in the big watershed. We can accept each other all as barefoot equals sleeping on the same ground. We can give up hoping to be eternal and quit fighting dirt. We can chase off mosquitoes and fence out varmints without hating them. No expectations. Alert and sufficient. Grateful, careful, generous, and direct. A calm and clarity attend us in the moment we are wiping the grease off our hands between tasks and glancing up at the passing clouds overhead. Another joy is finally sitting down to have coffee with a friend. The wild requires that we learn the terrain, nod all the plants and animals, birds, ford the streams, and cross the ridges, and tell a good story when we get back. The hymn we're singing this morning is number 44. And you'll notice in your bulletin we made a change to verse 2 on the lyric to fit the time and season a bit better. So on the third stanza of verse 2, we have changed it to, we sing the roses blooming in summer's beauty now. So this may require holding your book and holding your bulletin to get that one line right on the second verse. We sing of golden mornings. So let us stand. Dale, it's so nice to have you here this morning. and we can play an intro for this. Great job with the second verse. I didn't notice any missteps. I'm going to have you right back up here, Mac, to help on the offering. When I was looking for a selection for today's offering, I found this. From the Summertime Feel, Just Say Goodbye by Dave Pike, vibraphonist. And this comes off his 1967 album, Jazz for the Jet Set. So, hang on tight. The title of today's message is The Right Timing. What is it about the uncanny nature of perfect timing? Why do things occur when they do? And how do you explain the unlikely odds of it happening at all? Everything comes down to timing. Willie Nelson once said, "The early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese." Well, Ansel Adams, the famous 20th century photographer, is quoted, "Sometimes I arrive just when God's ready to have someone click the shutter." And Scott Adams, cartoonist of the Dilbert cartoon, added, "Your best work always involves timing. If someone wrote the best hip-hop song of all time in the Middle Ages, he had really bad timing." So the scope of this talk is not going to delve too deeply into the philosophical implications of the topic, so I hope you're not too disappointed. All I want to present are 2 points to consider related to the question, what do you notice when the timing is right and things just happen to come together? Here are the 2 points we are going to take a look at. Number 1, I had never heard of the Tevis Cup until 2 weeks ago. And number 2, if Donald Trump had not won the 2024 election, the Gunther Brown concert would never have happened in 2025. Point number 1. 2 weeks ago, Stephen Kinney's service topic was on the Morgan horse and its role in American history. During the course of his talk, he made an interesting reference to an endurance horse race in California called the Tevis Cup. I had never heard of such a race before. And Stephen mentioned a friend of his, Denny Emerson, who competed in it, and the only person to have both a Tevis belt buckle and an Olympic gold medal. I remember Stephen referring to the challenging terrain of the course, and you may have shown a few slides of it, but I couldn't see the screen from where I was sitting. Earlier that same week, Lyndon and I were watching our favorite TV show, KYD, Keep Your Daydream, on the YouTube channel. KYD is about a family of 5 who went on the road, living full-time in an Airstream travel tree. And the show documents their travels back and forth across the country. They are currently in year 9 and have recorded over 450 episodes of their adventures. The episode we watched was about supporting their friend who was running in this year's Western States Endurance Run, 100 miles in 1 day in Lake Tahoe, California. Interestingly enough, the race course follows the same trail as the Tevis Cup. But at that time, when we were watching it, it meant nothing to us. Later that week, after Stephen's talk, I was sitting at home and I thought, wait a minute, is this the same race that Steve is talking about? So I texted him just to confirm that it was the Tevis Cup race he had mentioned, and he said, yes indeed, it was. I had never heard of the Chalice Cup race until 2 weeks ago, and now I have heard about it twice within days. What kind of timing is that? So this first slide is from KYD, Keep Your Daydream. We actually only watch one TV show per week. That makes it, I guess, our favorite. It's dropped on YouTube at 8 p.m. every Sunday night, and usually, most times at 8:01, it's dropped, and we are watching it with our popcorn and Coke. So the family is Mark on the left, his wife Trish, and their children Carson, Tori, and Caleb. They also have a Charlie, who is a yellow lab, and has kind of become the star of the show, along with his wide assortment of squeeze toys. So here's a shot of Mark and Trish. They've been to New Brunswick, Nova Scotia several times, so I suspect they have gone right through Houlton, Maine, on their way to Canada. So what I'd like to show is a short excerpt from the TV show talking about the Tevis Cup.
Every June, the world's toughest endurance runners gather in California's Sierra Nevada mountains to take on the Western States, an iconic, grueling 100-mile race through heat, altitude, and history.
If they're rugby and still got to make that final push with that nail biter.
This isn't just a race, it's a proving ground. We're back with our good friends Jeff and Deb Spencer. You might remember them from our Rag Ride ride and other unforgettable moments we've shared.
Right into the garden. Yeah, you know what that is.
There are two inevitable truths when we're with the Spencers. It's going to be epic, and it's going to be early.
Shout out to Jeff and this idea, okay? But you go terrifying.
Jeff's the kind of guy who shows up big for everyone else. But this time, we're flipping the script, and we're joining Aaron and Chris from Iron Travels to help crew, and mostly document, Jeff's 8-year quest to race the Western States. This is a story about dreams, the grit it takes to achieve them, and how friends and family show up when it matters most. Oh, and one more thing. He has no idea we're coming.
Thrilled that you guys are making an effort to come. It's just going to be such a big deal for him to see you guys there. And so just thank you so much.
Should I play some sneaky music now?
I know sound quality is not that good, so they were surprising them at the race and playing some sneaky music as they snuck up. Now, so here's a little backdrop on the Tevis Cup.
Before Western States became the world's most iconic 100-mile trail race, it was a horse race. Back in 1955, a group of riders blazed a rugged trail through the Sierras, completing the Tevis Cup, a 100-mile endurance ride on horseback. But in 1973, one rider's horse went lame. Instead of giving up, Gordy Ainsley returned the next year to run the entire 100-mile course on foot.
A lot of people thought it was impossible, but I just came back to the man. All I had to do was 4.1 miles an hour, average.
He crossed the finish line in under 24 hours and unknowingly gave birth to a race that would redefine endurance.
So I've got a couple of photographs here from the Tevis Cup. And I think a lot of these shots, Stephen, feature what's called Cougar Rock as part of this course. It's quite a dramatic. That might be it, I'm not sure. The ride was first organized by, the Western States Trail Ride, partly called the Tevis Cup Ride, the oldest modern-day endurance ride, having been held annually since 1955. As such, it's been an inspiration and model of the most challenging endurance rides worldwide. The ride was first organized by Wendell Roby, an Auburn businessman and devoted rider of the Sierra High Country. Many people in the 1950s doubted that any modern-day horse could cover the rugged trail from Lake Tahoe to Auburn in a single day. Wendell and a few of his friends proved them wrong in August of 1955. He continued to hold the ride annually thereafter and organized the Western States Trail Foundation to preserve the 100-mile trail in the ride. So this endurance run is an offshoot out of that tradition. On the KYD show, the camera follows their friend Jeff Spencer through a 24-hour course of the race. So the camera follows their friend Jeff Spencer through a 24-hour course of the race through the night for rest stops or pit stops, and documents the effort and determination required to run and complete the 100-mile race. It was 8 years in the making and a lottery to get the right ticket. What struck me at the end of the race was the level of gratitude and great appreciation expressed by Jeff for the content of the moment, for the contribution of the support team, and for his friends, showing up and sharing the experience with him. He could not have done it without them. And although it was Jeff who actually ran the 100-mile endurance run, it was celebrated as a group effort and connected everyone who was involved. Mark and Trish later noted that this episode was one of their most responded to shows. When you had this type of group connection and the emotional score is really off the charts. It made an impression on me in the same way to see someone so moved and overcome by the emotion of and the accomplishment of that moment. Also, Jeff is about my age, a year older, so perhaps it has something to do with that as well. I'm glad he was the one running it and not me. So this slide, we used it a couple of weeks ago on the church bulletin for Dale's talk on the effervescence of community. Trying to capture that connection, the accomplishment that can be done when a group works together and has that mutual support. Point number 2. If Donald Trump had not won the 2024 election, the Gunther Brown concert would never have happened in 2025. As you may remember, our original concert in May of 2025 was Canadian James Mullinger from New Brunswick. Well, due to complications at the border related to the election of Donald Trump, that concert never happened. As we were scrambling for a replacement after the Mullinger show cancellation, someone suggested, how about Gunther Brown? I said, I don't even think they're around anymore. But as the story goes, the person who suggested Gunther Brown, Ryan Hines, cold calls Pete to see if he could get the guys back together again for a show in Houlton. We would call it the one night only reunion tour. Pete called the guys said yes, and as you now know, we had a show. And as I did tell Pete, you guys did owe us one. So if Donald Trump had not won the 2024 election, the Gunther Brown concert would never have happened in 2025. I'm sure the James Mullinger show would have been remarkable, but that did not happen. And Gunther Brown did. And I'm so glad it did. All a matter of timing. So I've got a couple of slides here of the band. And these were taken by the brother of the drummer, Garrett Mills. Chris Mills from Houlton is a photographer. And they did a photo shoot, a couple at the Littleton Covered Bridge. And then they also went to Kevin Parent's garage on County Road and got a series of photographs Mark, the bass guitar player, had joined them at this point. And I'd seen these photographs when Chris sent them, and I didn't recognize exactly where it was until I was at Market Pizza the week before the show. Kevin Parent and Gina were there having lunch, and I was talking to them, and they recognized these photos, and Kevin said, those pictures were taken at his garage. And this is a shot taken in the UU church basement before a show, back in around 2016 or so. And they did one other show with Travis. It's a double bill show with Travis Humphrey and Tim Humphrey. Did a show, opened up, and Gunther Brown did the balance of the show without the bass guitar player having joined them at this point. And that's a shot on the sanctuary stage. And everybody always asks, who is Gunther Brown? And it's still unanswered, but I did come across this photograph, and it may have some connection to the band. I'm not sure. Here's a shot taken just before the show that night. And here they are on stage. Gunther. Derek Mills, the drummer, lives across the street from our house in Monticello. He grew up. He and his brother were much younger. So his parents still live in the house, Dwight and Linda Mills. And leading up to the concert, I talked to Linda a couple of times. I'd be talking to Linda, and she'd say, the boys are rehearsing tonight. I'd see her a couple nights later. She'd say, the boys are rehearsing again tonight. And I thought to myself, it's all coming together. Because part of this was significant for the band members, and also significant for myself and the church here. We had booked them for that spring show in 2020 in April, and COVID hit, and the show never happened. Pete was in Europe at the time, contracted COVID that month, almost died. Has been recovering 5 years later, never picked up the guitar again. At the concert, Pete said, who books a band who hasn't played a show in 5 years? And I remember I was standing over here taking a photograph, getting an angle on the band, and Pete looked up into the rafters during an instrumental break, and the spotlight hit his face, and it was like an angel, almost like Christ of the American Road, as he was on stage in that moment. So, I got a text from Ryan Hines after the show, and Ryan said, Pete said, if I had called 2 weeks prior, it would have been a hard no. But he had just picked up his guitar, just happened to pick up his guitar from the basement that week, and had dabbled a bit. So my call was timely. But Pete also stressed he was not a believer in the stars alone. My response to Ryan, what a night, but it wouldn't have happened without you, Marina Ryan. The guys put on a great show, kept bringing the Gunther Brown experience, and Pete even got a little emotional on stage, which does not usually happen. Perhaps the stars were aligned. Thanks again, I can't say that enough. I also got a new Gunther Brown t-shirt, and we gave the band 4 of our collector's edition Eclipse shirts. HA, exclamation point, close quotes. It was a good night to have our building open to the public, to have a sizable crowd in our sanctuary listening to the band. The music was amazing. The food was amazing. Very missing, like lemon squares. Thank you, Joyce. And of course, the Governor Brown inspired swampland latte that our baristas whipped up. Thank you, Emily and Ray and Claire were supervising most of those drinks. Most of those drinks were served on ice that night. It took a lot of volunteers, sponsors, and coordination to pull it off, but it happened. For me, it was personal. I've known these guys for years, love their music, appreciate what they create on stage, and I never really thought we'd see them here again. But it turned out to be a bonus concert we didn't expect, and one to remember. This place was the place to be that night. And I feel that same way more often than not here lately. Each Sunday, to meet together and see what happens, to light our candles and share the challenges and successes of life, and sometimes it does get a little emotional. No two UU congregations do candles of joy and concern in the same way. For some, it's not that significant. For us, it tends to be. And if that's all we did on a Sunday morning, was to light the chalice and to have time to share and light candles, and then extinguish the chalice and have a good coffee hour and some food, that would constitute, in my opinion, a good UU service. Oftentimes, the candles of joy and concern are a good indicator of what's going on in the life of the group. Martha Newman, my predecessor, used to have a coffee hour in the corner of the parlor on an old desk with a percolator coffee machine and a few cookies that someone would bring in. And she noticed the coffee hour would last approximately 10 to 15 minutes, and people were gone. And she told me, Dave, what goes on in the coffee hour is an indicator, is just as important, and gives you a snapshot kind of feel for what is going on in your community during the coffee hour. Our beautiful space, the Frisbee organ, the topics that we explore, and the open pulpit sharing that is truly spontaneous, inspiring, and the right timing certainly comes into play. The quote in today's bulletin by Gary Snyder says, "When you find your place, your practice begins." And I feel like this can be one of those places. These are difficult times lately, and it's so important to have a place to go and to be with people where we can share what is going on and support each other as it is going on. Spiritual community does not automatically occur. You cannot make assumptions about it, and you cannot force it to happen. It's all a matter of timing. The individuals, the circumstances, and the opportunities all come together at once in a manner you could not really have anticipated even if you tried. But you notice it when you see it and when you experience it. And you enter into the participation of it, only knowing that you don't really know what's coming next. And all the seemingly disparate parts start to come together in their own timing, in a most amazing way. And we simply become a part of it. In closing, a poem by Shelley Lubin, an American writer, director, and teacher of theater and music. Everything has its own pace, its own timing. It's true of working, studying, learning. True of illness, sorrow, and grief. True of change, transformation. true of conflict, and true of peace. You can't change the pace without changing its nature, changing the experience. And the experience in itself is its own end. The end never justifies the means, because every means is its own end. It's not just about you, your natural pace. It's about what you're doing, what's being done. The butterfly effects covering miles and years. The river will not be pushed. The rain will not cease until it is finished pouring down. The sun will not rise before dawn. This is where we are. Everything has its pace and its own time.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you'd like to show your support, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and help us out by sharing this message by clicking the share button. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to U Church Houlton, there is a link to our online donations in the video description down below. And again, thank you so much and have a blessed day.